Welcome to the Boise State Esports Arena. I'm your host, Jacob Jem Palmer, here again with another week of talking to the coaches and inside members of Boise State Esports to get a general state of play of how things are turning out. I'm really pleased today that we are joined by Coach K, new assistant coach for Boise State University, and Doc's here too. So, Coach K, I'm sure everyone wants to know, since you're a new face here at Boise State Esports, give us a little bit of your background and where you come from and what you bring to the table for this program.
Right, so my background is I spent probably the past 10 years or so working in League of Legends esports, which obviously we don't have a varsity team here for that, but
currently,
of course, you know, got to keep the door open. If you walk through the door, I'm not going to say no to coaching League of Legends teams. So, but I coached for the LCS, which is the premier league in North America. I coached for Evil Genius's 100 Thieves. Helped put together some of those championship rosters that they've had as well. And have spent a lot of time, especially in the Tier 2 development space. I worked as a broadcast producer as well for LCS and Worlds and NACL. So kind of have done a lot of those things. Plus I've written for esports publications in the past, like ESPN, The Score, things like that. So basically I've done a little bit of everything. And for me, I think the future and the direction that's very exciting about esports is at the collegiate level. So for me, for a very long time, I've been thinking about transitioning towards that and building a really, really strong foundation for the future of pro esports. And I'm really excited to learn a lot about and get to know a lot of games that are not League. I think 10 years on one game might be a bit too much, but we'll see how I adapt and how I do and how much I can learn from everyone else.
Well, the way you just so casually checked off so many big names like 100 Thieves and ESPN, I'm more than confident that you'll do just fine. Let's talk a little bit more about that process that you've been in for the past few weeks. You know, you've been getting to know the teams, getting to know the different games that we play. What's been kind of your general impression of the past few weeks and what you've learned about the individual teams here at Boise State Esports?
Yeah, so my impression is that Doc and then the players themselves obviously have done a really good job of setting the culture here. It's very focused on improvement. Everyone kind of has a really good idea and a good head on their shoulders on, okay, today is going to be productive. I say, like, what are we working on today? I usually get a pretty good answer. And then people are very good at saying, okay, this is what I can do better individually, which is very exciting because that's usually stuff that you have to lay as a groundwork as a coach the very first few weeks, but it's already here, which makes my job very easy and very, very exciting, very cool atmosphere to be a part of so far. So.
Now this is where we can bring you and Doc too, because for both you and Coach K here, I wanted to ask, you know, as we're ready, I mean, competition's just around the corner, just a few weeks before we start going live for the tournaments. For both of you, just what's kind of been your general impressions of the main goals for this semester, other than, of course, besides win championships? What are kind of the win conditions that you've set up for each of the teams and the players as a whole?
Well, and I'm interested to hear what Coach K has to say as well. But I'll say that we don't start a season with the goal of winning a championship. We try to set goals that lead us in that direction, but you don't choose to do that. Otherwise, everyone would choose to do that, and no one would ever achieve. So it's like, what can we accomplish as daily goals, weekly, monthly, partial season goals, splits? How do we put ourselves in the best position to be successful? And that begins just with as Coach K described it, a what can I improve today kind of attitude.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty much what I agree with that a lot. I think as we kind of keep going, it'll be very fun to sort of lay out a roadmap of this is what we're doing this week, this is what we're doing this month, this is what we're doing this semester, right? That's always kind of the building block that I like to build for eventually, but as of right now, I think players are getting back, they're getting comfortable with each other again, and a lot of that will sort of come naturally through repetition, as long as the most important thing is we don't have a scrim without reflection, right? You know, one of the better coaches I worked with in the scene, Coach Six, always likes to say, yes, we didn't win the scrim games today, but did we win the post game? So that's That's the important thing every day.
I've already been kind of seeing some of that post-game reflection come in just with kind of a few of the initial scrims. One of the things I wanted to talk with you two about is I understand one of the topics that's been brought up is kind of negative self-talk and making sure that you keep your mindset right in the game. And I think that kind of gets looked over a little because so much times we talk about if we want to instill a good culture, we got to work with other players, right? Make sure we're not attacking each other. But tell us just a little bit more of kind of that individual fight that comes back with self-reflection.
It's easy to attack yourself. So, I mean, the rule is no BCD, no blaming, complaining, or defending. Always what we can do right. But the danger is when we take accountability, sometimes we're like, hey, everybody, I really screwed that up. And if we're not careful about how we address that, we're piling on ourselves to prevent other people from piling on us. And we say things that we shouldn't. I F that up. Or I'm sorry, I'm terrible today. I can't hit a shot. That is negative self-talk. That's like self-focused BCD. You're still blaming somebody, but in this case, it's you, which is different than accountability, right? So it is yep, that was me. I'll improve it, right? It needs to be a statement of, I understand what I did there, or somebody can help me later understand what I did there. I'll improve it, right? I'm going to hit more shots. It has to be positive. Otherwise, you end up trying to be accountable to your teammates, and you end up actually just regurgitating negative self-talk, and that mindset will only go one direction, and it's down.
And Coach K, you, I mean, having been in the league scene for more than 10 years, I mean, definitely, I'm sure there are a lot of moments for negative self-reflection, to put it lightly. I mean, how have you dealt with moments like that in your own coaching career to help keep teams, steer them in the right direction, say, when there's a big match going on?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to that. One is if you are taking too much of the blame just to kind of like put that out there, it becomes easy for your teammates to blame you and for your teammates to also not self-reflect. So that's one thing we like to point out. I think the acknowledgement point is very good because then as soon as you say, my bad, you move on. Like the acknowledgement part should be like maybe 2 words, and it shouldn't get in the way of making the next plan, right? The next plan is always the most important part. So basically the big things are, am I taking the appropriate amount of responsibility, 1, and 2, is the next step or the next plan the most important thing in the conversation?
Yeah, and with the games, we have to practice now what we're going to need in championship matches, as you mentioned, which is this finite period of time that we have to reflect, adjust, and plan. And if it's, Rocket League, you've got that minute plus 10 seconds to get back into lobby. You've got to do more with that than your opponents do. And you have to practice that every time, even if you don't feel like your scrim opponent is up to it. In Valorant, a great example, in between rounds, sometimes people can take over and start talking like before the round is even over because they're out, right? And 2 people, we have to continue to stay in the moment. And as soon as it's over, we have to make that adjustment and then plan for what's next because the other team is doing the same thing. We have the same amount of time to reflect and to adjust. We have to adjust better. We have to adjust and adapt better to other folks.
And this also doubly applies just given the current situation of the new games we're bringing on to Boise State esports and just having that self-reflection and making sure that it's positive and looking forward, because in games like Street Fighter or especially CB25, you've just got yourself right there.
Yeah, and there will always be other team members who are pushing them for this solo game, right? It's 100% about what you can control as a player.
Well, another big thing that I wanted to touch base on today is we've had kind of a big push this week because we've had a great partnership with Dairy West and getting a new fueling station. And there's been a lot of talk about nutrition and healthy tips around the game. I think so many people who might want to be pros or in a collegiate scene, think, okay, if I spend 12 hours in AIM labs, then I'm going to become the best player I can. But it's really, take us into the world of all the stuff that you two of coaches have seen of like peripheral stuff lifestyle-wise that really makes a difference other than just pure gameplay training in a player's performance.
Well, I'll ask you. I mean, 100 Thieves really kind of had the nutrition piece. They were ahead of it, I think, before many other people were stocking, making food available for players. What helps?
I mean, it was a big thing in League for a while in general. I think one of the things that I benefited a lot from last year was GamerDoc Lindsay Migliore coming to EG, and she tailored a lot of what she had learned kind of towards like gamer-specific lifestyles, because there's a lot of stuff out there that's, you know, athletic, like for sports athletics, and there are a few now more and more who are specializing in esports. Like the sleep component, I think, is one of the biggest things that people don't talk about much, which is, in fact, for esports athletes, because you are spending so much time making decisions in the moment, just snap decisions, the sleep is actually more important. She actually recommended 10 hours for our players whenever possible. Not just the typical 8, so that was a really big one. I think another big thing was when you're talking about nutrition, like fish oil was something that's like bigger for esports athletes. And then, you know, protein, which Dairy West obviously coming in clutch there, good times. So I think that's, and I think even when we had the talk with the players, she pointed out, you know, it's not as big of a deal to have protein in the morning for gamers because it's not like getting in the way of hardcore processes, because for athletes they recommend protein in the evening. So things like that were always very cool. I think we emphasized a lot of routines, right? If you're playing a certain time in the day, make sure for your matches, make sure you're playing that time of day during practice, right? You're kind of peaking that time of day. It's obviously hard for collegiate athletes because you have a full schedule on top of your performance, but that was a really big one, was emphasizing routine a lot. Going for walks, making sure you're eating the same meal on game day that you would eat pretty much every week, so you get in that same mindset. It's like a lot of it is about habit. A lot of it is about minimizing the decisions you make before your match, right? Making sure you plan out everything you're going to do about your day the night before. So a lot of that stuff was a big part of what we did coaching-wise with the pro teams last year.
It's very similar to athletic performance and nutrition management, sleep management. It is about that routine and making sure that you are as comfortable as you can be and that you have tested the things you're going to do. Don't go for kimchi breakfast, 2 hours before you're going to compete if that's the first time you've ever done it.
And it's kind of... It's a great way that I think that esports has been kind of bringing gaming into a more legitimate scene and comparing it with traditional sports, because for better or for worse, kind of in the public light, gaming the culture of gaming has always been linked. I'm going to be brand friendly here. Tortilla chips and lime green colored, energy drinks, sodas that just keep you up at night, and you're always hyper, and you got to take 5 energy drinks a day, to stay up, and really kind of slowing that down and saying, even though you're not using your full body here like you would in traditional athletics, all of the benefits that come from regular exercise, healthy eating, and healthy diets apply too, in terms of keeping your brain and body ready and prepared for intense high-stress moments where you got to make decisions on the fly.
Yeah, and getting into those habits now, being thoughtful about them, it doesn't mean you're not going to screw them up and somebody says, let's do pizza at 2 a.m. You're probably going to say yes to that a few times. But being able to get back, it's not about can you be perfect, it's how do you reset and get back to what you need to do, and you just have to practice that.
Now, one thing I also wanted to touch on, just diving a little bit more into specifics about this whole wellness thing, is obviously you two, as coaches at both collegiate and professional level, have to deal with teams that travel. And when travel gets brought into it, you might be suffering from jet lag, there's not as much time to eat. How do you keep that same team morale and team performance up when things, travel just is travel, and you always got to have legs like you're on moving ground, because things can change so much with travel? How do you keep that normalcy in hygiene and health going?
Typically, it's important to kind of, if your players have specific dietary restrictions, like we would have at LCS, you would have a lot of players from different countries who have very picky or food habits that they like players from South Korea typically will really want food that is similar to what they would eat at home. So making sure you're scouting out the restaurants or the places that have serve the food that they would want ahead of time. So asking players, okay, what do you like to eat? What is your meal? And then making sure that wherever you're going, you know where you can get that. The other element is just in a way with travel, it's easier because they're all in the same hotel room together, so it's like lights out now.
Yeah.
It's a lot easier to accomplish, regulating the schedules and access to PCs and distractions and things like that. So, yeah, I think a lot of that is just making normalcy. In terms of jet lag with international travel, if it happens, it's pretty unavoidable, but it's just try to get there in advance. Like one issue that would come up is Riot would only pay for you to get there maybe like a day before, right? So is it within our budget to get there a week before, right? And make sure people get used to the routine, things like that.
Yeah, the other thing I'll add too is that for us, when players are on stage, we turn into the highest functioning water and nutrition's, constantly putting things in front of them. If we haven't seen a meeting, you're looking at everybody and just kind of monitoring in your mind their blood sugar, their hydration level, and just topping off everything that they need topped off, helping them perform. And in that moment, I mean, there's very little that we can teach them. We just have to help them execute by taking away some of the stresses associated with it.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wind down, we've been doing a lot of reflecting on coaching in the professional and collegiate scene. Coach K, what's really stood out to you? You really, in the beginning of the show, really kind of harped on the great culture that collegiate has and how you think it's the future of esports. Can you get a little bit more in depth into kind of the differences between the professional scene and the collegiate scene, and why that makes you think the collegiate scene is so valuable?
Obviously, I'm not a huge expert on collegiate yet, but one thing that I always like to say is that, when you're done with high school, a lot of times you're not fully an adult yet. So I think college does a really good job of teaching you how to manage your schedule, teaching you how to be responsible for yourself, right, in a lot of ways. And I think that makes it feel like a lot of people already that I've met so far are already very well adjusted, and I'm not going to say too much negative about the pro players, but a lot of times you're you're very young. Maybe you haven't even finished high school yet, and you're going pro, and you're in a completely different city, so you have to learn things from the ground up. So I think college is almost a necessary or a good way to kind of put that in there and make sure that the players are ready for a professional career, and they don't necessarily waste their time not understanding how things go or how to have a proper schedule. Or I think I've seen a lot of pro players who just are not kind of ready for that yet, and so they can't make the best of their careers, and they get unfairly judged and lose opportunities for it before they kind of are able to figure it out and adjust to making those steps, becoming that more mature person, and being ready for a pro career. So.
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I mean, college is scaffolded adulthood, right? Is you move to campus, you usually move into the dorm, you have to go to class, feed yourself, clean yourself, and occasionally do laundry, or save it up, take it home. But that's essentially what you, and we add to that, you have to go to practice and be a good teammate, but you don't have to pay your power bill, you don't have to make sure that your lawn is, there's a lot of adulting things you can, that they're already prepared for you or supported around you. And while the pro players, I think, get some of that scaffolding around them, most of the pro organizations don't have the level of depth that maybe a university does. I don't have to worry about, the sink is broken in one of our dorms. There's a staff for that. But you had to deal with stuff like that with your players. You had to help manage their adult life as well as their playing life. And collegiate, because we're colleges, we're already geared to support how to live successfully as a scaffolded adult.
And I also think that, being in college, there's the opportunity to, if you are really dedicating yourself and you want to go pro and you that works out for you, great. If not, then gaming gives you other ways to accomplish goals, right? You can use your gaming career you can use the fact that you're good at games to become a marketer. You can use the fact that you're good at games to get your degree in computer science, or I guess it's very common in our program to have computer scientists or engineers or anything like that, but it's a very powerful tool, so that way it doesn't just feel like you know, I'm taking my gap year, and my parents told me I need to take my gap year, and if I don't go pro in my gap year, then I've wasted all this time like grinding this game, right? So I think it's really nice to kind of have esports as a tool that opens doors and creates more opportunities rather than something that narrows you completely into a low probability career that doesn't always work out for you, right? So.
Yeah.
And quick self-plug, if you're interested in finding out more about our various players and their degrees, we're going to be having a series all of September showcasing individual players and academic degrees that they've been getting and how esports has helped them with their career goals as well. Because, I mean, we've got people like Coach K said in computer science, but we've also got health sciences as well, some working in cybersecurity related fields as well, digital innovation and design. I mean, there's the whole breadth of people who come here to the esports program and what they want to do career-wise.
That was very nearly shameless. It was really close. I mean, really good. Yeah.
I'm just letting people know the options that are available. It's in their best interest to know that if you go to boisestate.edu/esports, you can find out all about our players and the various degrees that they're getting. Now, speaking about the players, the last thing I want to get you two out on, because we're getting close to the seasons. When are we going to start seeing competition come through, and in what conferences are they going to be in? What can we look forward to?
So it's no secret now. We are part of the PEC, which is a scheduling alliance. We talked about it a little bit last week. That's the Power Esports Conference, but it's a scheduling alliance. We're part of the Mountain West Conference. That's our primary conference, and it's got 8 schools, including us, that are strong in football. Names you would know in football: Syracuse, Michigan State, Ohio State, Oklahoma. Let's see if I can ramble them all off. Kansas. I'm forgetting somebody. We're in there.
Syracuse?
Syracuse. I think I mentioned them first. I feel like I'm still missing somebody.
Syracuse,
Oklahoma,
Michigan State,
Ohio State. Yeah. I think I got everybody.
USC, University of
USC. Oh, gosh. Joe, I'm so sorry if you're watching this show. I apologize. I was just moving east to west, and I stopped at us. My fault. But that is going to be a huge part of what we do. That starts on the 23rd. We'll do 7 weeks fall, 7 weeks spring, and then every team, maybe premature to announce the location, but a well-known and prestigious location. All 8 teams in all 4 of the games we play are going to meet for a championship event, all in the same place. We've never seen that before, but when you have 8 teams that are focused on the same type of thing, you can do that kind of thing. And the other one is the Mountain West. We'll play Rocket League, as we traditionally do. We're adding Super Smash, and we're adding CFB 25 to our Mountain West fall title, and we will do a singular Street Fighter 6 tournament, which we'll also do in the PEC, to advance somebody to the CECC May Madness National Championship. Hopefully through that process, one of the Mountain West schools and one of the PEC schools will probably have that opportunity.
All right, very cool. So you're going to want to stay tuned, of course, to Boise State on Twitch and YouTube. And like I said, boisestate.edu/esports if you want all news updates, because especially as the season goes on, these talk shows are not going to stop. We're going to get live reaction and reflection on big matches that just happened. So if you want a little behind the scenes, we're going to be talking to, of course, Coach Doc and Kay, and players as well about big events happening. So
hey, you had a name for this, and you had
I know. I was waiting for the end. I was waiting. You tipped me up. Yeah, you jumped me up.
So sorry.
We'll have plenty more Q&As with Doc and Kay as we go on. But for now, we hope you have a great week, and wish all the students in Boise State University, we hope you're enjoying the start of your fall semester. Be sure to stay tuned with us, because we're going to have competitive games right around the corner. But for now, thank you for joining us for this A Little Talk. I'm your host, Jacob Palmer. We'll see you next time.
Love it. Will you do one of these with